Today is Free Energy Fridays, and as always, we like to celebrate with a little bit of fun. So I have a fun presentation and some exciting updates on my research into zero-point energy. We have three parts lined up for this scheduled evening. First part is a lecture on the new laws of thermodynamics, as laid out by Walter Russell. Now, this aims to bridge the gap between conventional science and fringe science in an easy-to-digest way for a general audience. The second part is how the suppression of this new science and the economy are intricately connected. And the third part includes some exciting updates on my research into zero-point energy and the vortex coils. We continue to get some phenomenal results with only marginal adjustments to the system. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and get ready for a night of mind-bending discoveries and paradigm-shifting revelations.
Instead of using the conventional approach of mapping VBM to a hypercube, Rodin adopted a unique method of mapping his mathematics onto the surface of a hypersphere. While a hypersphere and a toroid are distinct shapes, it is possible to visually represent a four-dimensional hypersphere in three-dimensional space using a toroidal shape through a technique called stereographic projection.
This is stereographic projection. This is a sculpture that illustrates stereographic projection. Stereographic projection is a map from the sphere to the plane. And the way that it works is you look at the north pole of the sphere, and you draw straight lines from the north pole down onto the plane. And if you arrange the light at the north pole, then the light rays effectively do stereographic projection.
There's only 6 numbers in infinity before it repeats. So infinity isn't infinite. It's a bounded infinity, like the electron orbital. That's a big deal. I'm taking the binary code, which is doubling, and I'm saying I can turn conventional computers, I'm taking this back to how to make a supercomputer, and I can take that binary code and I can say, I'm not interested in how many transistors I can pack into the smallest processor I can make. I'm interested in cycling, how many times I go around. I'm interested in making a track for computer logic processors. Everybody today, we're making computers that are using the binary code. Nobody knows how to use the 396693 to do calculations yet in a supercomputer. No one knows that you can't have the binary code without the 396693.
Energy is not lost, it's transformed. Instead of thinking of energy as something that decays, entropy, think of it as something that cycles and multiplies. By understanding these new laws, you can unlock new methods to amplify energy and see the universe not as a chaotic system, but as a beautiful balance of compression and expansion. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Inventors, everybody. This is the pregame show. I'm your host, the Benefactor, your host here on BeneficenceTV, where I disseminate forbidden knowledge for you. Today is Free Energy Fridays, and as always, we like to celebrate with a little bit of fun. So I have a fun presentation and some exciting updates on my research into zero-point energy. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, John? What's going on, Crypto? How's everybody doing out there today? We have three parts lined up for this scheduled evening. Or scheduled for this evening. The first part is a lecture on the new laws of thermodynamics, as laid out by Walter Russell. Now, this aims to bridge the gap between conventional science and fringe science in an easy-to-digest way for a general audience. The second part is how the suppression of this new science and the economy are intricately connected. And the third part includes some exciting updates on my research into zero-point energy and the vortex coils. We continue to get some phenomenal results with only marginal adjustments to the system. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and get ready for a night of mind-bending discoveries and paradigm-shifting revelations. Excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. So we're diving deep into the mysteries of the universe, challenging mainstream narratives and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Whether you're a seasoned experimenter or just tuning in for the first time, tonight's show will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about energy, science, and the forces that shape our world. So dim the lights, charge up your curiosity, and let's tap into this electrifying journey, a journey into the unknown. So let's jump into the lecture I have, and let me bring it up for you guys. As always, there is a TV guide that you can follow along in the description. I will post it in chat as well in a moment. As soon as I bring it up on screen. Laws, there we go. All right, and I'm going to put that in chat for you guys. All right, so you can follow along if you're on a computer, if you're on a phone, or just watching on a TV. I put it up in the background. Hopefully you guys can kind of see it. If you can't, just let me know. I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is an introduction to Walter Russell's new thermodynamics and how it ties into my own research. So the new laws of thermodynamics, unlocking the secrets of energy with Walter Russell. Welcome, fellow seekers of energy secrets. Today we're going into a journey through Walter Russell's new thermodynamics, a fresh way of thinking about energy and the universe. Think of it like a cosmic recipe for how everything works, from the tiniest atom to the biggest stars. So a little background on Walter Russell. Walter Russell was a polymath, artist, scientist, and philosopher who proposed a radical new understanding of physics and cosmology. He believed that the universe operated on principles of rhythmic balanced interchange, challenging the conventional laws of thermodynamics. Regarding his work with Tesla, Russell claimed to have met Nikola Tesla, who allegedly told him to keep his findings secret for 1,000 years because the world just wasn't ready. While no formal collaboration is documented, Russell's ideas about energy, polarity, and the spiral nature of the universe align with some of Tesla's visionary thinking. There are some reports that say Russell and Tesla were friends and even exchanged ideas. Regarding his new laws of thermodynamics, Russell rejected the ideas of energy loss in closed systems. He argued instead that energy is endlessly recycled in a rhythmic, wave-based process. So his theories suggest that energy is not lost, but constantly regenerated through the universe's natural balance. It also suggests that matter and energy are formed by spiraling wave motions rather than simple mechanical forces. The universe is electric in nature, with opposing polarities driving creation and destruction. This also reflects Marco Rodin's work in describing the universe itself as a toroidal shape. Marco describes it as having a north and south side, one that contracts and one side that expands. We are on the south side, Marco says, the expansion side. Marco's theory is that this toroidal shape contains a left-hand spiraling vortex imploding and destroying, along with a right-hand spiraling vortex that is exploding or expanding. So this expansion is the creation that we see, according to Marco Rodin's vortex math theory. Walter's work heavily influenced alternative energy researchers and those exploring over-unity systems, sacred geometry, and free energy concepts. Where is it? Oh, okay, so it's going to be down there. I have a little tie-in clip. I thought I was going to put it here, but we'll watch it in a couple of chapters because it does tie into what we're talking about here. It is a chapter from Divine Science, so We'll go over a couple of laws first, and then we'll watch that tie-in chapter. The first law of the new laws of thermodynamics is cold generates energy while heat radiates it. So here's the first rule in this new world of thermodynamics. Cold creates energy, and heat gives it away. Sounds crazy, right? But think of it like this. Imagine cold as a sponge that squeezes energy from the universe. Heat, on the other hand, is like a fan that blows the energy out into the air. In my experiments with the vortex coil and lightning thief, which is just a joule thief device, the cold is likely compressing energy inside the system, while the heat is releasing it. Remember, Nathan from Old Man Builds constantly emphasizes that temperature control in your system is vital. This is because temperature is the signature that tells us how our system is operating. Are you generating more energy than wasting it? Well, how cold is your system compared to the hot parts? Law 2. Everything comes in pairs. So this is the law of polarity. The second law is all about opposites attracting. So ever notice how magnetic poles come in pairs? North and south, right? We've discussed this in my 0-point energy solved question mark video, which unfortunately had a lot of problems with it that I have since rectified in my experimenting, but still contains a relevant chapter here that actually we might watch real quick because this is really relevant. So this is how the universe works. Cold and heat, light and dark, good and evil, yin and yang. It's all balance of opposites that create the energy dance of life. So what does this have to do with my research? Well, in my vortex coils, I'm playing with the opposite magnetic poles. Like Michel's north-north magnetic coil that we've been calling the paradox box, where he takes two magnets and faces them north pole to north pole and glues them together and wraps a bifilar coil around it. These opposites are key to creating energy flows that amplify each other. Okay, and actually, let me pause this and pull up the relevant chapter here, which is how magnets work. And it's a very short chapter. Got it right here. Just gotta find the chapter. There we go. Understanding magnetism. So this is from a video I put out a while ago doing the beginning testing of the ABBA coil, the rodent coil that we've been testing with Mark 1. We're gonna pull it up right there. Oh.
How nature utilizes energy. It does not waste energy. Magnets are nature's over-unity systems. If you calculate the amount of energy it takes to pulse a magnet compared to the number of years it can sustain itself against its own weight in gravity, you clearly get more energy out than put in. I think a lot of this has to do with the diminishing study of the ether. The dismissal of such a critical component, such as the ether, leads us astray. When thinking about magnets, north and south poles, it's best to think about them as inflow and outflow. When you think about it this way, it makes more sense. Why do opposite poles attract? To understand this, we must first look at this analogy.
So we hypothesized that there was some sort of current circulating in and around the magnet, analogous to the current circulating in a coil of wire, and that this was the cause of attraction and repulsion in the magnet. But currents of what? We hypothesized that the vacuum of space was filled with a fluid of some kind, what you humans used to refer to as the ether. We speculated that these special objects were able to spin up the fluid ether in and around the magnet, generating currents that would then result in attraction and repulsion, analogous to what we saw in the coils. To test this hypothesis, we spun a couple of cylinders in a pool of water and watched their behaviors. Here is a video of one of these experiments. In this video, the cylinders are spinning in opposite directions. The spinning cylinders generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When these cylinders are spinning in opposite directions, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in the same direction. Therefore,
so that's very important because this analogy kind of makes you, helps you understand why opposites attract in magnets. You know, they're spinning up a medium of some sort, the fluid ether around us.
According to our...
And notice they're both going in opposite directions, clockwise, counterclockwise, but the space in between them is going in the same direction, causing an attraction force.
Rule, same attracts. The cylinders should attract, and they do. In this experiment, the cylinders are spinning in the same direction. Again, this is going to generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When the cylinders are spinning in the same direction, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in opposite directions.
See, they repel each other because they're creating currents in the medium in opposing directions, which makes sense. So, I mean, this, in my opinion, is a better way of understanding magnetism because the universe doesn't have special rules for everything. It's all fractals of itself. It's all operating under the same guidelines, the same book, the same rules. So I thought that was important to include. So let's move on to Law 3, which is... Oh, let me blow that up a little bit. So Law 3, energy moves in rhythms and cycles. Here's where it gets really funky. According to Russell, everything vibrates in cycles, like a cosmic beat. Think of it like a heartbeat, a rhythm of compression, which is energy storage, and expansion, which is the release. When you tweak your coil frequencies, like with an H wave, you're tapping into this universal rhythm. You're storing and releasing energy, just like a spring that contracts and expands. Law 4, vibration. It's all about frequency, baby. Russell also said that everything in the universe is just a vibration at a certain frequency. It's like a radio. If you tune into the right station, you'll get the energy you need. My vortex coil, it's like a frequency generator tuning into the right cosmic channel. This is why the symmetrical H wave that we've discovered is hitting the sweet spot because of the vibration causing energy to multiply instead of flowing away. All right? Law 5, energy spreads out. Inverse square. So this is the inverse square law. This is the rule that explains why light and energy spread out from a source. All right, picture throwing a stone into a pond. As the waves spread out, they diminish the further they get from the center. Energy does the same thing. In my device, this means that energy is coming out of the coil, that the energy coming out of my coil is increasing the farther you move out from the source. So if we are playing with neon lamps or the green machine, the energy could spread out in fascinating ways. Remember, Marco Rodin says that radiant energy spreads out in all directions linearly from the 0 point of the coil. Law 6. Magnetic poles, the dance of opposites. Russell says that the universe is one big magnetic field, where north and south poles are constantly interacting. So imagine two dancers. One leads, the other follows. These poles create the flow of energy, and in my research, the magnetic fields are probably at play in ways that amplify and direct the energy in my system. My work with neon lamps and coil setups is basically harnessing the dance of the universe's energy, multiplying and channeling it like a cosmic conductor. Law 7. Light is the source of everything. Finally, Russell believes that light is the primary energy source from which all matter and energy are born. Light isn't just something that shines, but it's the fabric of the universe. So when you see light flashing in the diode or in the neons or LEDs of my experiment, we're not just playing with the bulbs, okay? We're actually interacting with the very energy that shapes the universe. Whether it's the neon lamps or magnetic coils, we are likely tapping into light's power to manifest more energy, according to Russell. So that's very interesting because as you'll see in a minute, or as you'll hear in a minute, Tesla had some very interesting things to say about light. So this is the most interesting aspect of the new laws of thermodynamics, in my opinion, is that entropy has no place in nature. And when you think about it on a deeper level, it actually makes sense. So far, we've learned that cold creates energy and heat releases it, and that everything in the universe vibrates in cycles. But now we're going to get into something super important. Why entropy has no place in nature, and how Walter Russell's new thermodynamics actually makes more sense than the old, traditional version. So the problem with entropy, or the old laws of thermodynamics, according to Russell, in traditional thermodynamics, we're taught about entropy, okay? It's the idea that everything in the universe eventually breaks down to disorder. The energy always flows from a state of order, cold, to a state of heat, disorder. It's like the universe is slowly falling apart as time goes on, kind of like a messy room that only gets dirtier the longer you leave it. So this entropy principle is behind the idea that systems always lose energy to heat, and the universe is eventually doomed to run out of usable energy. That means things like my ABHA coil or lightning thief would eventually stop working because they'd be consuming more energy than they produce. So that's not exactly an exciting prospect for my research. But Walter's new thermodynamics says that there's no entropy, only energy cycles. So this is the misconception, according to Walter Russell, which actually makes sense. Now, let's throw all the rules out the window and embrace Russell's view. According to Russell, entropy doesn't exist in nature because nature doesn't waste energy, it transforms it. Everything in nature follows a cyclical pattern where energy compresses and expands in perfect balance. Imagine a breathing cycle. You breathe in, compressing energy, and then you breathe out, expanding energy. Nature works in the same way. Energy flows and recycles, instead of just disappearing into chaos. Theoretically, we should be able to do the same within our lightning thief system. If the universe can do it every day, why can't we? Why entropy is wrong? The universe is not random, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been following our research, you will start to understand this. The idea that energy does not go to waste, the idea that energy goes to waste, entropy, suggests that everything is slowly decaying into chaos. But Russell shows us that this simply isn't how the universe works. Instead, cold creates energy and heat gives it back in a constant cycle. It's like a vibration between 2 points where energy is always in motion, never wasted. It's a sympathetic response to one another, the yin and yang. one cannot exist without the other. For example, think about my coil setup. When I apply a voltage to my vortex coil, I'm not just adding energy and letting it disappear. The energy transforms, it compresses and expands, going through cycles of storage and release, compression, decompression. So we will now watch a tie-in chapter in my series Divine Science that is relevant here.
Instead of using the conventional approach of mapping VBM.
So this is the chapter, The Spiritual Language of Vortex Math, in my episode, The Thunderstorm Generator, and Vortex Based Mathematics. This is on my channel. If you just click popular videos, it's like the second or third popular video if you want to watch the whole thing. But this is the chapter that we're going to watch.
To a hypercube, Rodin instead of using the conventional approach of mapping VBM to a hypercube, Rodin adopted a unique method of mapping his mathematics onto the surface of a hypersphere. While a hypersphere and a toroid are distinct shapes, it is possible to visually represent a four-dimensional hypersphere in three-dimensional space using a toroidal shape through a technique called stereographic projection.
This is stereographic projection. This is a sculpture that illustrates stereographic projection. Stereographic projection is a map from the sphere to the plane. And the way that it works is you look at the north pole of the sphere, and you draw straight lines from the north pole down onto the plane. And if you arrange the light at the north pole, then the light rays effectively do stereographic projection, and these curves on the sphere are mapped to the straight line grid on the plane.
This allows for a 3D visualization of the hypersphere's properties and is commonly used in mathematics and physics. In mainstream mathematics and computer science, higher dimensional objects are often mapped onto hypercubes or other geometric shapes to facilitate visualization. However, Rodin's approach was unique in that he utilized a method of mapping his mathematics onto the surface of a hypersphere rather than a hypercube, allowing for a more intuitive representation of the underlying geometry, the geometry of the universe itself.
And this shape here is called, yes, we know it's a donut, but in science they don't call it that. Torus, T-O-R-U-S, or tori means multiple toruses. Our body was named after it. What's our body called? A toroid, human torso, T-O-R-S-O. You know what that means? It means you're getting put through the grinder. Because that hole is a tor, it means it's a hole. And it means that everything is either imploding into that hole or exploding out the other side. And if you don't have that hole, you're toast. Because it's always in and out. Compression, decompression. Implosion, explosion. And it's doing something else. It's thermal. It's about heat dissipation, which is the very foundation of all physics and astrophysics, because this is modeling a black hole. And nothing goes through the hole in the center, or the hole wouldn't exist. See this red line? Spirals and defines the hole by being an aperture, like our eye. Because there's something, I believe, emanating in this hole that's causing this hole to not close. Okay, and that's what
Why is there a hole there in the first place?
In
If it's
Rodin's
compressing
sequence
so much,
1, 2, 4,
like, it doesn't
8,
make sense, the
7,
conventional
and
way of
5,
thinking about it.
each number is related to the previous one in a cyclical fashion.
In a hologram, the hole is in the part's in the hole. Doesn't matter which you take image in this explanation. I'm laughing because I'm thinking how extraordinary it is what you're seeing there. There's no words to describe the miracle of putting those numbers into place and seeing the donut from different perspectives. You have no idea how big of a deal this is.
The sequence has a fractal-like structure with self-similarity, meaning that if you zoom in or out on the pattern, it will always look the same. By using this cyclical property, it's possible to design technology in a way that takes advantage of the repeating pattern to achieve greater performance without adding more resources.
The Mobius circuit. The superfluid preferred longest mean free pathway of least resistance for electrical superconductivity always follows this bounded infinity circuit. You start with one God, one universe. It doubles, becomes two. That's Gabriel's trumpet. 4, because the B is not a bilineal stop. It's a plosive. So when I say the most great name of God, I don't say, which is Baha, means glory, in Arabic, Aramaic. It's a loan word out of Arabic to the Farsi language. It's in the Bible, it's in the Torah, it's in the Quran, it's in Buddhism, it's in everything. And the superlative case of Baha, which is the higher case, the highest, is called Abha. And that translates to splendor, wondrous, or glory. That's the heavenly world. And I had to learn all this math to help me understand that. So what happens is 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, but I'm back to where I began. So why is the I Ching 64? Why is it the $64,000 question? Not because 8 times 8 is 64. We thought it was. Why? It's because it's one complete cycle of infinity. And it's not infinity of a straight line direction, it's infinity of a spin continuum. It's infinity of duration. So 64 doubles 128, but 1 plus 2 plus 8 equals 11 is 2. 256 equals 13 is 4. 512 equals 8. 1024 equals 7. 2048 equals 14 is 5. There's only 6 numbers in infinity before it repeats. So infinity isn't infinite. It's a bounded infinity, like the electron orbital. That's a big deal. I'm taking the binary code, which is doubling, and I'm saying I can turn conventional computers, I'm taking this back to how to make a supercomputer, and I can take that binary code and I can say, I'm not interested in how many transistors I can pack into the smallest processor I can make. I'm interested in cycling, how many times I go around. I'm interested in making a track for computer logic processors. Everybody today, we're making computers that are using the binary code. Nobody knows how to use the 396-693 to do calculations yet in a supercomputer. No one knows that you can't have the binary code without the 396-693. I'm telling every computer scientist that you don't even have the whole picture yet. That's unbelievable. That there's another pattern, number pattern, in calculating that is indispensable to these calculations, which is a 396. So if I go from 3, because we know if I go 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, I'm going to go back to 1. You can't leave the train track. You're on a rail. But what happens with this? Bear in mind, why is it a dotted line? Because I'm trying to convey to you that it's a higher dimensional flux field. Because every coil, as I had to learn, you're now having to learn, as it was taught to me by Scott, who was my mechanical engineer, chief, every coil has an associated magnetic field with it, except it's not just magnetism, it's spirit and magnetism. The field is magnetism, the flux is spirit. It's a flux field. So, spirit is irresistible, penetrates everything, and is the source of all motion, vibration, and time. I have found a numerical formula for spirit. I know when and where spirit is in 3D space, and more importantly, I know where it's not. Okay, so spirit has a phasing, it has an activation sequence, it has a timing, and there's a numerical formula for it. So what am I doing? I'm getting rid of calculus, I'm getting rid of equations, or I'm giving them numerical equivalence. Because calculus is never any better than the person speaking it. Whereas numbers are a part of our world. They're a part of creation. They have attributes, they have physical properties, and they have a timing. The relationship to geometry or to tiles or to tempo and timing is an inherent part of this discovery. So spirit is also called prana, chi, tachyon, monopole, dark energy, dark matter. It's also called soliton, Higgins, God particle. It's what everybody wants right now. It's what the big race is that everybody's looking for. I've elected to use the term they use in the scriptures, which is spirit. I could easily substitute any other name for it.
This opens up new possibilities for creating technologies that are more energy efficient, smaller, and faster, potentially making current technologies obsolete. The traditional linear approach in engineering is based on the concept of adding more resources, such as more transistors or more power, to increase the speed and capacity of a system. However, the cyclical approach in vortex math is different. Rather than adding more resources, this approach focuses on increasing the efficiency of a system by exploiting its inherent cyclical patterns. By utilizing engineering in this fashion, you are choosing the path of least resistance for both the programming language and electrons flowing through the hardware. Marco believes that the energy flow in the universe is a result of a continuous geometric progression that starts from the singularity at 0 and expands outward in a spiral motion, following a specific pattern called the Rodin coil. In vortex math, the number 9 is considered to be a very special number because it is the highest single-digit number and contains within itself all other numbers.
That's where the missing 0 is. Only 9 lines up over 0. Unless you're the finest, and my students are the finest of the finest, bar none. Okay, they come from Microsoft. They come from the biggest General Dynamics, the biggest weapons manufacturer in the world. Everybody has to come through my door if they want to be a master of their technology. What I'm about to explain is just one thing. That 9 lines up over that 0 vertically, but no other number lines up over anything else vertically. Everything else lines up horizontally, except nothing lines up with the 0 either. So this is the relationship of how nothing creates everything, how the universe was brought into being. So I claim to know the secret of the 3, 6, and 9, and that's a family number group, but when I'm using it, it's palindrome 3, 9, 6. 9 always comes in the middle of 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are always on the outside, and DNA follows this pattern. And if you can follow it, 3 and 6 is magnetic, 9 is spirit. They're inseparable. Only magnetic fields can respond fast enough to give slippage and free play to spirit. And when spirit's going forward, the magnetic fields are going in the reverse direction. But I had this when I was a teenager. I did not know that the 396 was that red dotted line. When I had that as a teenager, I didn't have it correct. I had that as a solid line. You can see how it's the same angle and the same ratio? You see this waveform in the circle? See this waveform in the circle? Because I took the most great name of God, the equation, out of the scriptures, which is the 2 and the 5 connecting to the 1, because that's in Arabic is the B. That's the H is the 5. I'm not using the English order of the letters. I'm using their original scriptural language. Why? Because they say the prophets deliberately revealed it in those languages because they said those languages, the sound embodies the essence of what it's describing. They said it was a spiritual language. So I was going by their rules. Hey, I'm not a prophet. I'm an adherent. I'm trying to learn what they're teaching, okay? I'm just trying to reverse engineer and look for the clues.
Marco believes that 9 is a symbol of the original source of all creation and represents the purest form of cosmic energy. He claims that the number 9 holds the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe, and that by understanding the mathematical properties of 9, one can harness the limitless power of the cosmos. According to Marco, all the energy in the universe comes from the singularity at the center of the vortex, which is represented by the number 0. In contrast, the number 9 is considered to be the symbol of the highest level of consciousness and represents a connection to the ultimate source of cosmic energy. It is a symbolic representation of the cosmic energy that emanates from the central singularity. Nikola Tesla, the famous inventor and physicist, also had a special fascination with numbers and their relationship to the universe. Tesla believed that the numbers 3, 6, and 9 held a unique and universal significance, and he often talked about the importance of understanding the hidden patterns and symmetries in the universe. Tesla believed that if people could understand the significance of 3, 6, and 9 and their relationship to each other, they could unlock the secrets of the universe and access limitless energy.
All right, so if you want to see the full hour and a half, that is on my page. Just click the popular tab under videos, and you'll see it, the Thunderstorm Generator, Divine Science, Episode 1. Plasmoids and Vortexes, I believe is the subtitle. So, moving on. How does this explain nature better than entropy? Well, energy is not lost, it's transformed. Russell's theory explains that energy is never lost. It's just changing forms. It compresses and expands, just like a spring. This is why my experiments with the coil can multiply energy instead of losing it. It's about tapping into that natural cycle of transformation, instead of being stuck in a never-ending drain of wasted heat. Remember, nature doesn't like instability. If you push someone on a swing, nature gives you a push back in the form of gravity to find that equilibrium. It gives you energy to work with. In traditional systems that don't utilize resonance and back EMF, it's just like pushing that person on the swing, only at the improper moment to sustain that swinging motion. With resonance and capturing the back EMF, you are pushing that person on the swing at the highest point, wasting the least amount of energy to sustain that cycle. When you collapse an electromagnetic field, nature is giving you that back EMF to utilize to restabilize the field. And what do traditional systems do with that? They dump that energy or filter it out to the point where it's useless. We're simply recycling that energy nature provides to keep the system stable with a pulsed signal. So that's very, very important. It's very simple. The universe works in harmony, not chaos. Entropy suggests that things are always moving towards chaos, but nature, as Russell explains, is actually all about balance. Think of it like a dance. One step forward, one step back. Energy flows in waves, and it's the flow that powers everything, from stars to our coils. Balance better encapsulates how nature actually works, rather than entropy, which really doesn't have a place in nature due to the presence of balance itself. Entropy implies everything is constantly breaking down to disorder, but in nature, we see patterns and cycles of energy that constantly seek equilibrium. Nature doesn't embrace randomness. Instead, it thrives on balance and harmony. There you go. Sorry about that, guys. Just as the seasons cycle or the tides flow, energy moves in rhythms and waves, creating order out of what might seem like chaos. Russell's view of the universe reflects this continuous flow, where energy doesn't appear but transforms and stabilizes. This is the true essence of how nature operates, according to Russell. So, for instance, in my magnetic field experiments with north and south poles interacting, the energy isn't just spreading out in random ways, it's creating order through balance. Nature amplifies energy, not destroys it. In Russell's systems, cold compresses energy and heat releases it, but never in a way that leads to destruction or decay. So when messing around with my vortex coils, I'm actually tapping into a natural cycle of energy multiplication, not entropy. This is the very reason my system is considered an open system, not a closed one. A closed system ignores this cycle and lets entropy waste the gift from the aether. Okay? Let me repeat that. A closed system ignores this cycle and lets entropy waste the gift from the aether. The energy in my lightning thief system isn't disappearing. It's amplifying through controlled compression and expansion and then recycled through resonance. Remember, entropy implies chaos. It implies one side, a one-way flow. It is antithetical to balance, which is the true nature of energy. So breaking it down for the layman, how entropy doesn't fit, though. So to sum it up, entropy says things fall apart. Russell says no, things transform. Energy is always cycling. It's never wasted, just recycled. Entropy says energy is always lost as heat. Russell says no, cold compresses energy, heat releases it in a balanced rhythm, creating a self-sustaining system. That is our universe. Entropy says everything heads to chaos. Russell says no, nature works in perfect harmony. Energy is amplified, not lost. So how does this all fit with my research? Well, when I'm working with my coils and the lightning thief, I'm not fighting against entropy. I'm tuning into nature's flow, nature's natural cycle. So the idea that cold generates energy and heat multiplies it is crucial to how my device works. I'm interacting with the universe's natural rhythms of compression and expansion, not dealing with a wasting system of decay. By understanding these new laws, you can create more efficient energy systems that aren't bogged down by false notions of entropy. You're tapping into energy cycles that don't end in destruction. They end in enlightenment. Wink, wink. Remember, the universe is in infinity, not of direction, but of cyclical motion, and it wants us to use that same energy it uses. Energy isn't just about heat or entropy as we've been taught. Instead, it's a dance of opposites, rhythms, and frequencies that multiply energy, compress, and expand it. In my vortex coil and lightning thief setup, it could harness these cosmic principles, allowing me to amplify energy in ways traditional science might not fully explain yet. And to be honest, I can't fully explain yet. I'm doing my best to explain how the system works, and we'll go into a little bit of the breakthroughs in a few minutes, but it's pretty remarkable, some of the recent developments that have been happening with the system. So the big takeaway, energy is not lost, it's transformed. Instead of thinking of energy as something that decays, entropy, think of it as something that cycles and multiplies. By understanding these new laws, you can unlock new methods to amplify energy and see the universe not as a chaotic system, but as a beautiful balance of compression and expansion. So let's ditch entropy and start exploring the infinite possibilities of a universe where energy is always being transformed, never lost. All right, so we also need to embrace the cosmic rhythm. In the universe, cold compresses, heat releases, polarity creates energy, and everything vibrates in cycles. Whether you're using coils, magnets, or neon lamps, you're interacting with the universe's cosmic rhythm. By understanding and tapping into these principles, you can multiply energy and explore new possibilities that mainstream science still doesn't fully understand and can't really explain. So keep experimenting, keep questioning, and keep dancing to the beat of the universe. You might just unlock the next big breakthrough, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to the intermission before I head to the next part 2. So we're going to have a quick intermission, and then we're going to go to a second part. Welcome back to the pregame show for the League of Extraordinary Inventors. I'm your host, the Benefactor. In this chapter, we're going to go over the missing link, how Marxism and science intersect to reveal the truth about energy and knowledge. So let's take a quick look at how in economic theory, Marxism can help us understand the problems in science and why certain truths have been suppressed over time. But don't worry, we're not diving into politics here. We're simply using some basic principles from Marxist thinking to connect the dots between science and economics. It's a quick chapter, and we'll explore why certain knowledge, like the new laws of thermodynamics proposed by Walter Russell, was hidden from the public, and why important concepts like the luminiferous ether have disappeared from modern science. Ready? Well, let's get into it. Understanding suppression through economics. When we think about traditional science, we often see it as a natural and unbiased search for truth. But science, like anything else in society, doesn't exist in a vacuum, and this is important to emphasize. It's influenced by economic and political systems that shape it. In Marxist theory, one of the key ideas is that knowledge and power are controlled by the ruling class, those who own the means of production. The rulers, whether they are governments, corporations, or other powerful institutions, have an interest in keeping things the way they are. Why? Because the status quo benefits them. When the new knowledge challenges the current system, it can be seen as a threat to their power. So how this relates to science. Now let's connect this idea of suppression to fringe science. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, scientists like Nikola Tesla, James Clerk Maxwell, and Walter Russell were talking about concepts that challenged the mainstream scientific ideas of their time. They explored the luminiferous aether, which was once thought to be the medium that carried light through space. Tesla infamously referred to the light as sound waves in the aether. So that's how he imagined light, sound waves in the aether. After all, sound requires a medium to travel through. All the evidence pointed to the fact that light does this as well. They also talked about the possibility of energy that could be freely harnessed, energy that wasn't tied to the traditional understanding of thermodynamics. One of the only audio recordings we have of Tesla, which is actually featured in Divine Science, the video we were watching earlier, we actually have him stating, "We will not be using coal, fuel, or any other form of gas in the future. We will be using what he referred to as cosmic energy." Now I'm paraphrasing there. However, when these ideas didn't fit into the industrial world's economic model, they were suppressed. The prevailing theories of energy in thermodynamics were closely tied to the interests of industries that profited from control, centralized energy systems. These powerful entities had a vested interest in keeping the truth hidden to maintain their control. This is where Marxist ideas can help explain why the scientific community turned its back on revolutionary ideas like those of Tesla or Russell. Their work was seen as a threat to existing power structures that benefited from centralized energy production and monopolistic control over resources, both direct consequences of how we organize labor under capitalism. Monopolization of industry and centralization of power are not bugs in the system. They are features that are directly linked to how labor is organized, decisions are made, and profits are distributed. So it's all related. The new laws of thermodynamics and energy revolution. Walter Russell proposed a new understanding of thermodynamics, one that didn't focus on the loss of energy or entropy as mainstream science does, but rather the idea that cold creates energy and heat releases it in a cyclical manner. This is a revolutionary concept, but it's been largely ignored by modern science. Why? Because it doesn't fit the economic model that benefits centralized energy producers. Russell's ideas about energy and the nature of the universe align more with Tesla's concepts of free energy, ideas that could have transformed how we think about energy, resources, or even our relationship with nature itself. But these ideas would have undermined the financial interests of big energy corporations, which is why they were suppressed. By applying the Marxist critique of knowledge and power, we can see how these brilliant minds were silenced by a system that feared change. If new laws of thermodynamics could lead to free energy or more efficient ways of harnessing power, the traditional economic power structures would have been disrupted or even dismantled entirely. So, the missing aether and modern science. Let's also talk about the luminiferous aether, a medium through which light and energy were thought to travel. Tesla, Maxwell, and Russell all believed in the aether, but modern physics dismissed it in favor of the vacuum of space. They call it, quantum vacuum or something like that, quantum theory. So why? Economically driven scientific institutions pushed a model that could be more easily controlled and profited from. But by removing the concept of the aether, traditional physics could continue to focus on ideas that supported the nuclear and fossil fuel-based industries. After all, if the aether exists, it means energy could basically be harnessed from thin air. Energy that doesn't need to be extracted from a finite resource, and with very little effort as well. So breaking free from the system, a call for new thinking. Why should we care about all of this? Well, understanding that economic and political systems influence the direction of science helps us understand why we've been kept in the dark about some of the most profound discoveries in history. But now that we see the truth, we can push for change. By revisiting the ideas of Tesla, Russell, and other suppressed thinkers, we can begin to free ourselves from outdated systems and open up to new world of possibilities for energy and technology. So in conclusion, the power of knowledge, and the need for change. The Marxist critique shows us how economic interest can shape and suppress knowledge. But science is not just about serving the interests of the powerful. It's about uncovering the truth about the world around us. The new laws of thermodynamics and the luminiferous aether and the ideas of free energy are all part of a bigger story, one where we can free ourselves from the old systems and create a new future that benefits everyone. By understanding why science was suppressed, we can dismantle the old paradigm and bring the truth to light. And who knows, maybe we'll finally be able to unlock the hidden energy that's been there all along, waiting for us to discover it. So, what's our final takeaway? The connection between economics and science isn't just about politics, it's about power. When knowledge challenges the status quo, it gets hidden. But by looking at the work of visionaries like Russell and Tesla, using the lens of a revolutionary philosopher such as Karl Marx, we can uncover the truth and empower the future. I have some exciting updates, but we're going to take another very quick break. I am very busy tonight. We have so much to do, and at the end of the night, I am going to go through the list of potential tests that we have to do and go through, and let you guys decide what we should prioritize and do first. That's going to be exciting because I want your guys' input and what you think we should be testing, because we have like a whole list of tests that we could do, a whole bunch of new ideas, and only a limited amount of time. So we need to prioritize those tests. But let's take another quick break, quicker than the last intermission, and give me time to rest my breath and catch my breath. And then we'll go to the exciting updates, the final chapter in this live stream before the main show, the League of Extraordinary Inventors, hosted by Mike from Faraday Research, which is going to be really exciting. So let us take a quick intermission. Right, welcome back. We have some exciting research updates. That is the lumen lamp. It's a beautiful piece. That is utilizing the same circuit, basically, that we're utilizing for the lightning thief. Just wanted to put that up there for you guys. Regarding the lightning thief, by disconnecting the negative load, it gave us a little bit more efficiency with the system with the 0.6 watt light bulb. We also got an exciting update with the 40 watt panel that was frustratingly lit quite dimly before. I'll illuminate you on those details in a few minutes. For now, let's take a look at the first recent discovery. The negative load disconnecting, increasing the efficiency of the system, apparently stabilizing it, bringing the consumption from the battery from like 45 milliamps or something like that, maybe it was like 100, it was really high, all the way down to 10. So that matches what the load is actually requiring, about 10 milliamps. So let's watch that video. Negative input. Okay, here's something really interesting. So here's the negative input for the power. This is supposed to be where the negative terminal for the green, this negative terminal for the battery is supposed to go, and then this is the positive. So what I witnessed with this, with the other board, not that one, the other board with the breadboard, not the PCB, this is the PCB version. What I witnessed was disconnecting the negative load, because there is no negative power, it's just the negative load. It's all on the same rail. So disconnecting this negative proved that the 0.6 watt LED light bulb increased the efficiency tenfold or near it. So what we have now is the 40 watt, and I'm going to show you. This is the same setup. So basically what we do is we unhook both negative negative lines, from the PCB, and we have the negative of the power going directly to the negative rail of our load. So the power is literally being forced back from the load's negative terminal, and its return path is directly to the negative terminal on the source, instead of going back through the PCB. Okay, so this is very interesting because we know that this isn't near the tuning. The 40 watt is too high. We disconnect this, and as you can see, it goes off, right? Like it's supposed to. But watch this. So we unhook. So this is with the 0.6 watt. This is the 6 watt that's plugged in right here. And this is the only one that sings to us. 40. We unplug that. Now watch this. Plug this back in. Screw this on. Our indicator light goes off. It immediately starts singing, right? And watch this. We're going to unhook this. Okay, and that's when we get our efficiency gain. It starts slowing down on the draining of the battery starts slowing down a lot when we do this. Notice it's not humming anymore. So this is basically like taking this negative battery terminal, and instead of hooking it up to the negative input, we're basically hooking this right up to the negative of the load instead of the input power terminal. So that's very interesting. I'm going to have to update the schematic so I can give people a clear visual of how this connection actually works, because it's, you know, this setup's a little messy and confusing, but basically this is the power line that I have to my light bulbs. You see you have the white is the positive and the black is the negative. I've got some jumpers in both to go to the PCB, but the green, the negative terminal for the battery, is hooked directly up to the negative for the power line of the load. So it's going right to the battery. And normally, again, normally this would be unhooked, and this would be hooked into the power source pin, okay? And then we would normally plug in our negative for the load as well. Let's see, it goes on. Come on, there we go. It's very hard to do with one hand. See? It starts humming again. We take it off. We could actually add a push switch, a trigger switch here. Push button switch to prime the coil and saturate it with that energy as per Nathan's recommendations. So that's basically what we're doing. We're plugging it in, and then we're just unplugging it like a switch. But look, this goes off because it's connected to the power terminal. The indicator light goes on. So take this and just hook it directly up to there, and it goes back on. But I don't think the efficiency reduces until you actually, yeah, it's like Nathan said, you have to saturate the coil first. So this actually has to be humming. See. So what I was trying to say in this video is you have to have it connected properly first before you do that, at least to the negative line of the load. Plug this in. So it actually has to be humming first, I believe. Then you just unhook it, like you're priming, you're saturating the coil, and then you're releasing it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We have another very interesting update regarding a configuration that I discovered recently called, I'm dubbing the thruple thief. I gotta put it in here manually. So this is the new connection setup called the thruple thief, where we have one primary hooked up to the primary coil and battery. The other two are just hooked up to the secondary pickup coil. One each has their own channel, but the difference is we're mixing the channels. So on this one we have the start of channel A and the end of channel B, and on this one we have the start of channel B and the end of channel A. So very interesting setup here, and as you'll notice, we can tune into each one of these. So let's start by tuning this one. And you should notice it does affect the light very slightly, diminishes very slightly, almost unnoticeable. Oh, and we have a wire that disconnected. That's why this one isn't working. Plug that back in, and as you see, both of them are lighting up. You can adjust one and the frequency of the other goes off. Or I'm sorry, you adjust this one and the frequency of this one goes off, I believe. Yep, so see, it affects it. This one affects this. So you turn this off completely, and that diminishes a little bit. We can detune that one as well. The hum gets noticeably louder each one that you turn on. So this is a little bit louder, slightly louder. This is the more powerful one, so that's interesting. And this is our primary, and that's the thruple thief setup. So very interesting setup. We have a bunch of different wonderful setups that I will go over in a little bit. We also have the micro vortex coil tuned, so we have a video on that. So real quick, we're behind the scenes here, backstage at the League of Extraordinary Inventors main show, and I hooked up the micro vortex coil to the lumen lamp. Now check this out. It doesn't quite work, but it works. So check this out. It doesn't work as well, but that just means we need to tune it in a little bit more, but it works. So this was very wonderful news to see that the coil that I spent a lot of time making and putting some love into actually works. We just need to fine tune it a little more with a different pot. Pretty cool. But that was me backstage working in the lab at the main show of the League of Extraordinary Inventors. That will kick off 9:00 p.m. tonight. So we have a little bit of time here. We're going to finish up, I think, a little bit early than I had anticipated. So we might be able to watch some Bedini in a few minutes. So that'll be fun. All right, so regarding the most recent setup or discovery, hats off to Michel. This is amazing. So Chapter X, the secret sauce of the Bedini diode hack. A light bulb moment. Imagine you have a bucket of water with a hole at the bottom. Every time you pour water in, some of it leaks out, wasted. But what if you could catch that escaping water and pour it right back in? That's exactly what we're doing with a diode in our circuit now. Except of water, we're redirecting electrical energy. So Michel's germanium diode discovery. Michel, one of the many brilliant members of our fringe team, suggested adding a diode to the positive output of the Joule thief circuit, directing the back EMF, that is the energy that usually escapes, right into the load, right back into the load. Let me blow that up just a tiny bit. There we go. The result? almost double the brightness with my otherwise dimly lit 40-watt LED panel. You guys seen it. It lights very, very, very dimly. It's like, I think we calculated it might be around 3%. And this is very significant, okay? So it's very exciting. It appears to be at least getting twice, if not more, the brightness for around the same energy cost, which is pretty cool. I visualize it as sending waves through a tube. Those waves hit a smaller opening, a smaller tube, which is analogous to our light bulb. It's the wrong size. This tight space, analogous to a capacitor, squeezes the wave because it is the wrong size, sending some of that energy backwards and wasted. So this diode catches that and redirects it. This is just my theory, and I could be wrong. As you'll see in this video, though, Michel is getting some pretty sweet inductive spikes, utilizing this method and the lumen lamp. So I got some mixed results with the lumen lamp, but I don't have the proper equipment, to be honest, not like Michel does. So
part that I've designed it, and
I'm going to post his channel in the chat there, because I want you all to go and subscribe if you haven't already to Michel's Bench. He's an absolute genius. He designed the lumen lamp and these coils here, the fusion coil and caduceus coil. They're swappable with this plate, and the circuit he designed from the Jewel Thief that we went over for the Lightning Thief that I was working on. It's all really awesome. He's got some really amazing discoveries. He sent me that north, we're calling it the paradox box, but it's a north magnet transformer. So it's two magnets glued together with the north facing each other, so north, and it's glued like that, and then you have a bifilar coil wrapped around it. So it's very, very cool. We haven't tested it out yet, but I'll go over at the end of this stream before the main show, and I'll let you guys choose what exactly we are going to be testing, because we got lots of stuff. We got the piezo transducer, we got the paradox box, we got the lumen lamp, we got all sorts of stuff to play with, guys. So I need your input.
Back of it like this, but you'd have to remove the feet and then put this instead, because this one actually has the feet already on them, and then you can just keep the feet for your actual night lumen lamp. But this is more for prototyping, so you'll need to print this part here. And then for the terminal block connectors, I recommend one that is open like this, and not the cheap plastic version that you can have, because those ones you can just loosen the screw and then you can quickly put your alligator clips across, and it makes your whole experimenting journey just so much easier and so much quicker and more intuitive as well. So I actually just fitted this, and I was experimenting with the lumen lamp, and I actually made a discovery. I'm gonna now show you a clip on how this is conventionally wired on Wikipedia. And so on Wikipedia, there's an article about the Jewel Thief, and some images which describe the diagram of the Jewel Thief. Now, if you see this diagram here, we've got a really conventional Jewel Thief diagram. Now we can see that the I call it the center tap, because essentially it's the middle of the two wires actually is connected to the positive here. So we've got positive, and then it goes to the coil, and then we have a diode here, and then we've got the load, which is connected from the output here to the negative. So here I've got the same connection as the original Joule fifth on Wikipedia. So it's nothing new here. We've got the opposite sides of the coil connected to the positive side of the battery, and one side of the coil goes to the collector of the transistor, and the collector of the transistor is then connected to this red wire, which is the output. So the red wire goes to the germanium diode. So I've got a germanium diode here. You can see here the germanium diode is connected here, and then the diode goes to the light bulb, and then the other side of the light bulb.
I just want to pause it and look at the diode real quick. Look how cool that is. It's transparent. You can see through it. It's really neat. Very sleek.
Goes to the negative side, just as per the original Joule fifth diagram. So here there's nothing new, but what I've discovered, and it's probably nothing new, but I've not seen this information online, so this is why I'm showing you this experiment that I'm doing here. What I've discovered is that we can switch a connection around, and we get an increase in power, and we get a current reduction. So currently the current draw is 312 milliamps, voltage is 11.33 volt, and I'll show you the oscilloscope. So the probe is connected to the start of the diode, the oscilloscope probe, and the negative side of the oscilloscope probe is connected to the negative side of the battery, which is this blue alligator clip. This is the blue alligator clip. I have disconnected the actual negative side of the PCB because for ease of the demonstration here of the experiment. So this is the actual clip lid. You can see if I disconnect this, the light is disconnected. There's less current draw. So look, yeah. So when the light bulb is connected, the current draw increase. And so I'll just reconnect this here. So current draw is 316 milliamp at 11.33 volt. And the discovery is that if I change the connection of the output from the negative to
Second, my audio cut out. My phone's died. Let's switch over the audio device. There we go.
the discovery is that if I change the connection of the output from the negative to the positive, we actually get an increase in voltage and a reduction in current. What this means is that we are capturing the back EMF of the collapsing field, which is called a radiant spike. We're capturing this and putting it back into the system. So essentially what we're getting is that the lamp is will be a radiant lamp, a radiant energy lamp. So I'll show you.
So he swapped the positive and negative, which is something, honestly, I think I did previously in the Lightning Thief, or possibly it was the Lumen lamp at some point. But I didn't really monitor anything. I was just, testing to see if it worked. Yeah, he swapped the positive and the negative, and apparently it reduced the current, obviously, and because when I had done it, my initial thought was the same. The back EMF is coming out the negative. Maybe you can force it into the positive that way.
And what he also did, and this is the important discovery here for me, is the diode. He also placed a diode that is on the positive rail, right, but facing the load. So it's capturing all the extra energy that's wasted, that's getting, you know, like redirected, that, you know, maybe is because the load's not finely tuned. You know, again, it's that analogous to a pipe in a smaller pipe. You want to try to match that original pipe as much as possible, so that the wave continuously flows and isn't kind of restricted.
This blue wire, which is the output. Here, I'm going to try to zoom out a bit, just so you can see. So I'm grabbing this blue wire, which is the output of the light bulb. So I'm disconnecting this. So current draw is 317 milliamp at 1133 volt. I forgot to show you the oscilloscope shot here. So this is the original Joule fifth. Just trying to rotate the camera a bit better. And so if I just auto set this signal here, you can see that the frequency is 39 kilohertz and the volt peak to peak is 43.93 volt, voltage maximum of 43.78 volt, and voltage mean of minus 1.15 volt. So this is the way that we've been showed on how to connect the original Joule fifth. This is what the signal looks like, which is a positive mostly signal. So this is the original Joule fifth connection. I'm gonna now disconnect the negative clip lid here, and I'll show you the reading so you can get an idea here. So the current draw is 321 milliamp, voltage is 11.29 volt. I'm just going to disconnect now the clip lid of the negative, so the light bulb is off. We can see that if I connect the negative, the current draw is around 320 milliamp. And this time I'm going to connect this output of this light bulb, which is was connected to the negative. Now I'm going to connect the output to the positive. So I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now the current draw has gone down. Intensity of the light is the same. The voltage is more or less about the same. And I'm going to show you the scope shots here. So I'm just going to reset the scope shot. I'm going to show you the readings. So we've got now, you can see the voltage has increased. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So the voltage has now increased to 53 volt. We can see we've got a more, we've got a negative value here. We've got minus 13 volt, which we didn't have before. And we've got a max peak of 39.94 volt. This is the signal. I'm just going to show you the signal again. I'm going to center the signal. So this is the signal center. And also we've got less current draw going into the system, and we've got a higher voltage. So we are now feeding back the collapsing magnetic field of the coil back into the lumen lamp. So we've got a radiant energy lamp.
Beautiful, beautiful piece. And look at those huge radiant spikes. All right, so the Bedini secret. When John Bedini, a pioneer in free energy circuits, always emphasized harnessing these inductive spikes. When the power to a coil suddenly cuts off, the collapsing magnetic field releases a high voltage pulse. Normally this energy just dissipates, or, is grounded out But with a well-placed diode, we can capture that lost energy and send it back into the system where it can do useful work. So the right diode for the job. Michelle is using a germanium diode. I'm using a UF4007, a fast recovery diode. But I also have an ultra-fast diode on the way. Because speed matters when capturing these energy pulses. In my opinion, it might slightly increase the efficiency of the system. These small tweaks here and there are what we were trying to do to get the most out of the system. So why this works, though? Think of a trampoline. When you jump, the springs store your energy and then give it back to you when you bounce up. The diode acts as a one-way trampoline for electricity, making sure no energy gets lost in the wrong direction. Instead of letting the inductive spikes disappear into the ether, we're bouncing them right back into the circuit for extra power. The result so far, brighter LEDs. It appears to be at least double, in my opinion, brightness or more. We do have a lumen meter on the way, so I think Monday or Tuesday we should be able to tell indefinitely what the efficiency is of the system now. Because as you'll hear in a minute, I did use the battery and compare it again with the coil system, and I compared it to an inverter. So I got my DC to AC car inverter. I got it hooked up to the battery, and we tested it. Okay, so when that lumen meter gets in, we'll be able to tell indefinitely, compare it 100%, when it's on with the, wall outlet or DC to AC inverter, compare that to what it's getting, and then we can tell indefinitely what the efficiency is compared to, a traditional inverter, which, actually, I think we calculated the inverter was getting 98% efficiency. No, it's actually more like 60% efficient. So I think it's like 95 to 98% efficiency for the transformer itself, but the actual power you get out of it is around 60% for the inverter. So we have huge inductive spikes with Michel's system. I haven't monitored that yet, but I'm sure we'll see the same. And better efficiency. It appears it's slightly better, even though it's more power to the system, or it's more light to the circuit, the LED, without being drawing more from the battery, it seems. We'll do another current test tonight. It is still running. So the new test started when Michel recommended adding that diode to recycle the back EMF in the Joule Thief circuit to improve efficiency. I started this at implementing this around 12 o'clock. So the test technically started 1 o'clock in the morning this morning. And after implementing this, my 40-watt LED panel ran brighter while still drawing roughly around the same amount from the battery. So this is very important. And the test, I started around 12 to set up, and charge the battery and test them both. Because, and it didn't take me long, because while the new test drained the battery faster than the traditional, non-diode, the increased brightness suggests better lumen per watt efficiency in the long run, when you calculate everything. So it actually was slightly more efficient, even though it was, drawing a little bit more watt hours, slightly more. So I think it was like 0.006 to 0.00, or no, 0.004 to 0.002, something like that. It's in here in the bottom. But did I put it in here? No. So the original test I ran it, the inverter test, which was our baseline, it only ran for 10 minutes. From testing, we ran it from 12. So I had it charged at, and this is the interesting part, I had it charged at 12.6, and it was still, stabilizing. It takes some time for the battery to give you the full, or the accurate voltage when you check the charge level. But it was relatively mostly charged. It was about 12.6 when I registered it. And then I hooked up the inverter with the 40 watt panel and the wattmin registering 37 watt consumption. And that brought the voltage from 12.6 to immediately brought it down in like a couple minutes to 12.3. So maybe that was actually, like what it was going to stabilize to. But it was very funny. Like the sudden draw into that stabilized point is a lot faster than my system. So that was very surprising. But it only lasted, going from 12.3 to 12 volts, it only lasted 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So, and the projection for that consumption was, at 100%, it would have lasted, I think, somewhere like 15.8 hours. So it's 60% efficient, that inverter. And this is very important because we're comparing real world applications for off the grid, applications in lighting and potentially heating too. So while concerning the new test with the 40 watt and the diode and the lightning thief in my coil, while the new test drained the battery faster, like I was stating before, it increased the brightness, suggesting a better lumen per watt efficiency. The diode appears to have optimized the energy recycling, improving the light output for the same power input. It is also worth noting that I ran the test with a straight up DC to AC car inverter. Okay. Yeah, it got 10 minutes. One important thing to another thing to note is that while it's only consuming 37 watts based on the wattmin, the inverter, the battery started out charged at 12.6, and then the panel was plugged in, immediately drained down to 12.3. Okay, so I did include that. I did this all last minute, and last night I didn't get a lot of sleep, so I forgot I included this. It's okay. But anyways, the point of the point of the paragraph here is that the new system with the diode increased the brightness and didn't really put much strain on the system. So that was really freaking cool. Let's get a demonstration of the diode in action. I'll show you guys just what it is capable of. Michelle, I just want you to know you're an absolute freaking genius. Look at this light. This is how I had it hooked up without the diode. I'm running off to work now, and I just did this real quick before I have to hit the bus. Look at this. Okay, watch this. Check this out. Unhook that, and I hook in my diode connection. Oh, give me 1 second, set the phone down. Again, it's really hard to do with my hand. Check this out. Watch this. Plug this in. Look at that. All right, we got the diode hooked up. Look how much brighter that is. Look at that. Wow. Look at that. That's like twice as bright. I think it might be a little more. We'll get the lumen meter to see indefinitely, but look at that. That's before. Plus. Look at that. That's before. And that's after. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So we were losing a lot of energy. We might still be losing a lot in different areas. So we can definitely, and that was my feeling, that we can definitely squeeze the system for more energy efficiency, way more, and possibly close the loop even. So that's pretty cool. It's bright. We'll have to monitor the battery consumption when I get home, but wow. Yep, absolutely wow. That is intense. So what's next? We're going to test even faster diodes to see if they improve performance further. Could we push the efficiency even higher? Could this principle be applied to bigger systems? You know, stay tuned as we experiment with what's possible in the world of free energy. So this discovery has been an eye-opener, proving once again that small tweaks can lead to big breakthroughs. The Bedini method isn't just theory, it works in practice, and we're seeing that here in real time. We're seeing the results firsthand. If you're experimenting too, grab some high-speed diodes and try this out. Who knows? It might just light up your world in ways you never expected. Keep tinkering and keep discovering. With that, we're going to go on to the final segment, which is I have a couple of videos that we can watch as fillers while we wait for the main show, since I finished up a little early. But I have a list of potential experiments we can do that I'd like to bring up with you guys and get your input, what we should be working on tonight. All right, a couple of these I think I've already done. So, and we can actually add more now that we have this diode discovery as well. But here are the basics, because there's a lot that we can test with, and quite frankly, it's kind of like picking candy out of a candy shop where everything is catching your eye. You just really don't know which one to start with. Everything looks so beautiful and everything looks so wonderful. All these tests have so much potential. So, the micro thief setup. Test the micro vortex coil with adjusted resistance on the lightning thief. We haven't done this yet, but we know that attaching a 332 ohm, or we know that it's reading 332 ohms with the lumen lamp potentiometer. So if we attach approximately 300 ohms of resistance to that and a 5K pot, we should be able to tune it with the lightning thief, theoretically. So we could try that. Hook up a 330 picofarad capacitor to the lightning thief open circuit. We've already tried that. That method is not working. We have to come back to that. So let's put a mark on that for now as initially failed. So solder another board together. We can do that on screen, solder another board together for the lightning thief. We can use the ferret rod. I got a ferret rod, or I'm sorry, oh, we don't have the ferret rod yet. I have the soft iron rod. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So we can test the soft iron rod in the coil for induction heating purposes. This is very important because this cold in my heater takes a lot of energy. If we can nail this, we might just be able to get some heating purposes out of the lightning thief. Okay, so that's something that's on the table. We can test the piezo transducer on the lumen lamp and the lightning thief. Here, give me 1 second, I'll get it for you. All right, we have the piezo transducer. The disc on the bottom. And we also have on the table, test the paradox box here. This is the paradox box. made by Michel Morel. This is his kind of like discovery, I think, where we have the north to north pole, and it's kind of like a magnet transformer. We can test it on the lumen lamp and the lightning thief. We could do that tonight. We could do more testing with Ian's cap bank on either device. Actually, probably just the lightning thief. The lumen lamp already has its capacitors on it on the board, so we might not want to mess with that. So maybe just the lightning thief if we do that. We could do more testing with the green machine and the magnetic rotary. You know, the neodymium magnet, where we reduced the input wattage to 30, reduced it by 30 watts on the Wattman. So that was pretty cool and significant discovery there. We could do more testing with that. More testing with the green machine and the neon lamps with the HV Tesla cap. So we have a high voltage Tesla cap. That seems to be the only method with combined with the green machine that I've discovered at the moment to excite those neon lamps and get high voltage out of the system. We could do more testing with that and see if it utilizes anything alongside maybe a lightning thief device or something, in unison, in conjunction. The green thief setup, as it were. So we can do more testing with the dual thief or the thruple thief setup, utilizing 2 and 3 devices together, lightning thief devices. We can also do more test the 12-volt battery with the lumen lamp, put 2 15-ohm 2-watt resistors in series with the 12-volt battery to lumen lamp positive rail, and this is recommended to prevent it from, I guess, burning out. But honestly, I don't think that's necessary. I've hooked it up to the wall adapter now for a long time. It's still on. It's been on for days. It's pretty efficient. It's not 100% efficient, but it's pretty efficient, and it's not giving me any problems. So it's a 12-volt, 1 amp wall adapter. So that's pretty cool that it works. So we could do more testing with the dual thief or thruple thief and the paradox box or Ian's cap bank. We've got a lot of options tonight, guys. The piezoelectric transducer, cue the Jeopardy music. Do 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 do. What do you want? What do you want to do? I don't understand where to start. Well, since nobody's chiming in, I think the most practical place for me to start right now would be the soft iron rod in the coil for induction heating purposes. I have some theories on how to do that. Give me a moment. I'm going to try to find the Daniel Nunez video where he does this with his coil. See if there's any hints in the video that I can go off of, but I'm pretty sure I have a strong idea how he does it. So with that, we're going to go to a quick intermission, and let me see if I can find that for you and take a few minutes to prep that before we hit the main show, and I do that in the background in the mini lab. Oh my. That was an odd glitch. We are going to just shut this down. Alright everybody, I found the video. We're going to watch it and then transition to the proper intermission screen, which was glitching out for some reason. You might have to mute. I might have to give you guys a mute warning to sort that out. I don't know what's going on there. But this is the video. Oh, let me bring it up. This is the video that I was talking about that might give some insight into how we can actually get some heating out of our coil tonight, because it's chilly. It's freezing. And I don't really want to turn on my heater too much because it's expensive. So let's see if we can crack this.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel Nunez with OneStopEnergies.com, and this is Breakthrough Energy. What you're looking at is a coil that's resonating to its optimal frequency, and this is the future of inductive heating. So what we have here is a input frequency of 28.760 kilohertz. We are getting 36 volts going in, 300.
So immediately he's using the stereo amp method, or we will be using the stereo amp method because he's using a tone generator. Okay.
And 57 volts coming out. And we're cooking 3 kilohertz. We are getting 36 volts going in, 357 volts coming out. And we're cooking this bolt in the center. You see it's wrapped with some electric tape, and that electric tape is cooking. The meter is having a hard time detecting the high voltage output, so it's making a weird beeping sound. That's a xenon bulb. You can't see that it's on fully because of the flash on the camera. We're running 36 watts, yet we're able to achieve a temperature of, let's just feel around, it should be around 200 degrees.
Nope, it flashed for a second.
Let's see if we could get to 200 degrees.
Tape provides some kind of insulation at least.
So I'm thinking that that's more than likely going to melt away some of the enamel. So yep, we're above 220, 230, 240. Alright, so we have a max of 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're only consuming 36 watts of power. Bear in mind that 20 watts of that is standby power for the amplifier, so we're really only using 16 watts of power to achieve a temperature of 240 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to create this smoke that you're seeing. So essentially,
and I have access to a powerful board, but a smaller board that will be able to consume a lot less energy than a big stereo amp board like that, because it has a lot less features. It's more streamlined, and it's you know, there are components that have been developed since this video, it's like 10 years ago or more, that have advanced the area of microelectronics. So, you know, we can do that and maybe get more efficiency out of our system. Interesting.
this is the future of inductive heating. So I went ahead and tested that with the other coil. Wasn't even worth a demonstration. Just trust me that the regular solenoid coil will not do this. And the maximum compression of energy that's happening in the center there is creating way more inductive heating capability than...
That's something I didn't pick up the first time I watched this video. He tested the traditional solenoid coil. It didn't do the same thing because it's utilizing more of the path of least resistance than a straight line wire, but it's not utilizing the path of least resistance.
ever possible before. We also have a massive amount of wireless transfer. I'm not going to set this right on top because I will also melt this pickup coil. But this is breakthrough energy. Again, for those of you who are not familiar with this setup, just to go over it really quickly, you have a frequency that's going in, driving the amplifier at above 27 kilohertz. That's going into the...
And he is using the closed circuit method, I believe. This is my theory. Specifically, some of his diagrams, I believe, say that the closed circuit method produces heat. So from that, I kind of intuited that that's what he's talking about here, the closed circuit method, which makes sense. You're not really hooking up a load to the system. You're concentrating that energy in the center of the vortex in the form of heating up that iron.
Coil energy is feeding through in opposite directions, loading that xenon bulb, and
the protection
only
bulb,
drawing
okay.
a fraction of electricity. So this is enough energy to turn a regular Stirling engine.
And if he didn't have that xenon bulb, that's a protection bulb, I'm assuming, so it doesn't fry his stereo amp. But if he didn't have that xenon bulb, theoretically, he could get way more heating out of that, way more voltage. Because, you know, that's taking up some of the voltage potential, as we've seen in the Lightning Thief system. You know, when you have to excite something that powerful and use a lot of voltage, so your reading is going to be a little bit less than what the full potential of that system could be. Keep that in mind. Also, I would like to emphasize that I did a lot of research on how batteries work. And this is something that I forgot to include in my presentation, but the point here is that when you have a 12 volt 20 amp hour battery like we are testing with, you have a theoretical 240 watt hours of battery, right? 12 times 20 is 240. So you get a theoretical 240 watt hours. But what most people don't realize, what I didn't realize until I started thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second. That's the theoretical maximum if you drain the battery down to 0 volts. I mean, so realistically, systems only use about 10 to 20 watt hours out of that battery. But the Lightning Thief, we use almost the whole effing thing. This is very important. This is also very important to include in our research.
Or something like that. So just wanted to share that with you all. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, feel free to post in the comments section below. As always, take care and blessings.
All right, we are going to actually transition to another intermission to get ready for the main show, the League of Extraordinary Inventors.
And in the depths of shattered halls, I wandered all alone, casting whispers, binding chains, demons of my own. I seek deafening, down spread on my frail soul. I once spin my mirror, haunted by my role. But in the echoes of my cries, just still I emerge, guiding me to where my true results are. Now I rise from the shadows with wings of fire and sand, free from the chains of sorrow, from this path of forever defend. Shattered glass beneath my feet, scars I wear but dry. Stormy nights just turn to dawn, where truth